is Saturday, March 2nd. You are watching You Don't Watch Sports right here on the Feo Grande YouTube network. I am Bill Smith, and with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Feo Grande himself, Omari Ellis. Omari, how was your sports week?
Thank you very much, Bill. It was great. It was nice. It was quiet. It's that time of year. Not a
Yeah.
lot to talk about, but still chill. No bad news. And had some history made last weekend. We'll get into it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, like as he said, it's kind of the one of those quiet times in the sports. The sports that are active, they're kind of just in the middle doldrums of the season. We got the trade deadlines happening. We got All-Star games wrapping up. So we got not a lot to talk about, but also we got a lot to talk about because there's always stuff to talk about at your sports conversations, and that's what we're here to do. Is we're gonna guide the light through those conversations, sprinkle a little
Little information.
information into the conversation. All right. One of the sports honestly that's not going on, but it's starting to go on, if you know what I'm saying, is the one that we're going to focus on topic number 1 because I make the topics, and I want to talk about some baseball. Omari, we've had a few baseball things going on. As you know, the teams are starting to assemble in
Mhm.
Arizona and in Florida for spring training, starting to get the engine revving, getting ready for the regular season that starts here at the end of March.
All right.
We've already had a few standouts. The big free agents of the offseason, Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the offensive and the pitching side of the Los Angeles Dodgers have shined bright in their spring debuts, although it's a very small sample size. We also have a one of our last free agents. We got this. So the name Scott Boras? Do you know the name Scott Boras?
Boris or Boris?
Boras.
No.
So he is a talent agent. And in Major League Baseball, a talent agent kind of has a much bigger role than in the other sports because of the unstructured contracts, no ceiling cap or no salary cap uh on anything. Um, there's a whole lot of play to go on. So the agent is kind of a much bigger deal in baseball, and Scott Boras has become kind of a face of modern sports agents. But he classically holds on pretty long, and he currently has a crop of about 4 or 5 guys that have not signed yet, but are at the top of the free agent class. One of them finally did sign this week. He did not take the big deal that he was maybe holding out for, the big multi-year deal, although he did get $80 million over the course of 3 years from the Chicago Cubs. And I know you got big eyes there. That's a lot of money.
80 million. Yeah.
That's a lot of money, but it's also not a lot of money in
In
good
baseball.
baseball player standards. And Cody Bellinger had a great year last year. He has a MVP under his belt, but he also has 3 seasons where he was playing subpar baseball. He was pretty bad. Um, so it was a tough sell. So right now we got 3 years with options every single year. Because again, baseball, we have these unstructured contracts. We can kind of do whatever we want. So Cody Bellinger has a player option every single year. This year, he's going to make $30 million. And then at the end of the year, Cody Bellinger gets to decide whether or not he wants to stay a Chicago Cub or not. If he comes back to Chicago Cubs, he's going to make another $30 million. And then for year
And then for
three,
three, that's 20
he
million.
again gets to decide if he wants to come back. If he has a great year and he wants that big 10-year, $300 million contract that the AS tier players get, um, then he's going to have to he's going to have to test free agency again. Or he can come back and get that $20 million contract. So lot going on right now, and we still have several free agents out there that are ready to sign, still unsigned. Couple of pitchers that I'd like to note: Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell. We've talked about both of them on this show. They still do not have a home. They need to be signed.
Yeah.
If this is the kind of deal that these guys are going to look for now that they've waited too long and the spring training starting to happen and they need to sign with a team, if they're shifting their perspective to these shorter, high dollar deals,
Yeah.
every team in the league should be able to afford this contract. Every team in the league should be interested in this. I'm going to be upset if my team's not doing it. You should be upset if your team is not doing it.
I would be.
I was talking to
Because
that. I was talking to
oh.
them.
For those of you who don't know, my baseball team is his baseball team.
Lastly, I wanted to highlight something during this offseason. Like last week, I wanted to highlight and teach you about Clayton Kershaw.
Yes.
This week I want to teach you about one of the greatest baseball names of all time.
Ooh.
I don't mean that as in like it's a great name. Like one of the greatest baseball people of all time, and that is Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente was a Puerto Rican professional baseball player that played 18 seasons in the majors, all for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was primarily a right fielder, um, but and was an incredible baseball player. He had 3,000 hits on the dot, 240 home runs, lifetime batting average of 317, 12 gold gloves, 4 batting titles, won 2 World Series and an MVP. The greatest thing about Roberto Clemente was that he was constantly involved in charity work. Is particularly in his home in Latin America and the Caribbean countries during the off season. So much so that in the 90s, I believe, the MLB actually created an award called the Roberto Clemente Award that is given to one player each year that best exemplifies the game of baseball in his community and contributions to his team and the world. So
Huh?
it goes to the players that do the most charity usually. And the players considered a very big deal. Unfortunately, in 1972, while he was still an amazing baseball player, during the offseason, he was en route to deliver aid directly to the victims of the Nicaraguan earthquake when his plane went down and he passed away way too young, um, at the age of 38. But yeah, he was one of the greatest baseball players of all time and one of the greatest human beings of all time. Um, and yeah, Roberto Clemente, one of the best names to know in sports, and now you know it. That's going to be my new thing.
That's pretty awesome, though. I appreciate you telling me that. And now, when you mentioned the '90s thing, I was like, okay, that's part of why I don't recognize it as much. Because earlier, I think you asked if I had heard the name. I'm like, I think so. Ooh, wrong position though. But that's cool though. It is unfortunate that he passed, but everything else about that story really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, second topic. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago as it was getting going.
Yes,
The
sir.
Capcom Cup's all wrapped up. I need to know
Yeah. Capcom
what
Cup
happened.
X has finished. Now, $81 million might not be a lot for your best top of the line baseball players. But the best top of the line fighting game players had never even seen $1 million until this last weekend, where Capcom Cup X, the 10th Capcom Cup, came to a head with the first season of Street Fighter 6. And in a tournament that had 32 people who, over the course of the season, had earned their spot to be here, and that consisted of a lot of big names and a top 16 that had 3 previous Capcom Cup champions in it. The reigning defending champ Mina RD made it to top 16. Knuckle Dew out of Tampa was there. He was the first Street Fighter first Street Fighter 5 Capcom Cup champion, Knuckle Dew. And then the third one, a Japanese player by the name of Gachi-kun, with 2 Evo champions for Street Fighter in Fudo and Shen, also making it to that top 16. Your winner and new Capcom Cup champion and the first person to win $1 million playing fighting games in a single tournament, at least. Uma from Taiwan. That's right. Came out of nowhere. He was on some people's radar because, I mean, what you had to do to get here, there's no way you were completely unknown to everybody. Everybody was a threat because you had to win tournaments to qualify. That said, he was not a name anybody was talking about. They were talking about your Mena RDs. They were talking about everybody I mentioned was talked about before this guy. The Evo champion from last year, Angry Bird, who was in the same pool as Mena RD, didn't even make it to top 16 because their pool was that deadly. Instead, a gentleman named Lashar, a Chun-Li player from Korea, made it out in that pool and caused a bunch of shakeups in the top 8. But Uma won the tournament, beating one of the favorites to win, Chris Wong from Hong Kong, who only lost to Uma at the tournament.
Real underdog story.
Oh, yeah.
You're building a real underdog story here.
Yeah. I'm just being honest. That's what it is. Chris Wong only lost to Uma, but he got second place and third place. One of those Capcom Cup champions that I mentioned before, young Gachi-kun, was there with his Rashid. And with everybody talking about how ridiculous of a character Luke, the main character of Street Fighter 6 and the guy on the cover, he's clearly the best character in the game if you look at all the tools he has. Didn't have enough to win that last weekend. JP, another overpowered character, didn't even make it into the top 4. There were 2 Lukes in the top 4, just for reference about Luke being a good character or not. But Jury won. But Uma from Taiwan, he obviously taxes. He's not a millionaire, but he's from Taiwan, and the amount of money he is taking back, he's a millionaire. He's a multi-millionaire. So that's awesome. We finally have one of those. And then they announced that for next year, now they did it this year, they had this special prize, but naturally they can't just do that every year. That's unrealistic. Fighting games don't make a lot of money. So next year, the prize is going to be $1 million. There's no way they can go backwards now. That would have been such bad PR. But that's how they built it up. He's like, this was a special prize. We're not used to doing this much money. So that is why next year the main prize will be $1 million. It's just not like the 2 million prize pool for the entire tour. It's just like $1 million for the cup itself, champion. Second place got 300,000. So when your game's coming down to the last round and the next hit is like, oh, you either make 300,000 or $1 million. That's crazy. It's a $700,000 money match right there. Best of 3, go.
Wow. Yeah.
Then second to third, I think second place got 300,000. Third place got 200,000. Fourth place, 100,000. Fifth place, 10K. So another big jump of you either get 10K or 100K. But there were some dreams made, some dreams shattered, some sad faces, but a lot of it mattered. It all mattered. Everything mattered. It's got like, I'm looking forward to the way the rest of this game goes.
Nice.
But that was it. History made last weekend, as I mentioned at the start.
So third topic, we're gonna go ahead and continue talking about some sports entertainment that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Omari, the Elimination Chamber happened down in Perth. Did you catch any of it?
I did not. I had work Saturday morning and it came on Saturday morning.
Yeah, it was an early one. It was an early one. I was a little annoyed because I had to wait for the replay to regenerate and post on the app. I got in just late enough to the live feed that I could no longer rewind it to the beginning. It like short circuited on me while I was in it, rewinding to the beginning. And then I had to wait an hour, like maybe an hour and a half for the replay to be like posted. Yeah, it was, I mean, granted it was like 7 in the morning on a Saturday, but
But
um
still, you woke up at 7 in the morning on a Saturday.
well, I was just I'm up like that because I'm crazy like that. I would have been up
Fair.
anyway. But yeah, it was a great pay-per-view, big one of their big stadium ones. The on the Elimination Chamber side, of course, Becky Lynch did win, setting up the Rhea Ripley Becky Lynch match, which is the biggest money match that they could do in the women's division. It's
Both
fully
giant
it
names
was
now.
it was kind of it was kind of a foregone conclusion
Mommy
that
versus the man.
mommy versus the man. It's happening at WrestleMania 40. They're trying to build the biggest WrestleMania that's ever happened. And that could absolutely main event night one.
I agree.
So yeah, so that got set. Standout from the Elimination Chamber, just kind of an odd thing that happened. New rookie Tiffany Stratton is booked as a bad guy in WWE canon.
Okay.
She is a bad guy. She is supposed to get booed. Sometimes when you're in these out of market locations, like in Perth, Australia, a random person, the country, the fandom in that stadium or wherever will just kind of randomly attach to one particular person. And you'll be like, well, they really like that person. And Tiffany Stratton was
Love the
getting a lot of cheers in the elimination chamber. She did a lot of cool moments, had a lot of cool moments, but yeah, it was a little bit of a weird moment because she is absolutely canon bad guy in the story, but she was getting cheers and then good guys were getting boos for hitting the Tiffany Stratton person that we all like. Um uh so yeah, it's just one of those weird things that kind of happens when you're at an overseas location.
those things
Um,
are always cool. The people that are like, yeah, this guy's here, and all or gal in this case is here, and all of a sudden the crowd's like, wait, what? Wait, they all like him? There's this dude Fandango a while back where one WrestleMania he had a match with fucking Jericho. All the dude did for his gimmick was come out, dance, and say his name in a weird way. He was just kind of a joke. But he had a match against Jericho at Mania, and before we knew it, the crowd was just doing stuff with the stage. They were just holding their fingers. They just came up with their own. They're like da 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 da. After WrestleMania, people had like the social media people getting on the subway just da 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 da.
yeah.
I'm like, what the? Why is everyone so about Fandango? Next night on Raw, they just kept it going. They were enjoying themselves for a good week. Fandangoing was a thing.
Yeah, I've heard stories of Baron Corbin
Mm-hmm.
in his full bad guy moments. For some reason, a stadium in France
Yeah,
just
overseas
could
crowds
not.
love them some whoever the fuck they want to love.
Yeah, they'll just hit somebody and they'll be like, "No, we're gonna root for this guy." Um, so yeah, so that was the women's. Honestly, that and that's kind of the notes from Elimination Chamber. Becky Lynch won. Tiffany Stratton may have been your MVP. Then we had the tag match by Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
Foregone conclusion again. Judgment Day is continuing to take on those belts. They faced uh
DIY?
No, they did not face DIY. I had that wrong earlier. They faced the what they literally named themselves 1 week before the match. The Newcastle the Newcastle Republic. It is Pete Dunne and
Oh,
um uh strong little
someone
boy,
else.
strong boy, um Tyler
Gable?
Bates.
Oh, okay.
Tyler Bates. That sounds right.
Tyler
Yeah.
Bates. Okay,
Tyler Bates and
yeah.
Pete Dunne
Only
of the
Tyler I know is
New
Tyler
Catch
Breeze.
Republic.
Okay.
Something like that. Anyway, foregone conclusion, Judgment Day, Damian Priest, Finn
Oh,
Balor.
especially if
Boom.
it's those two, yeah.
It was a decent match, but we all knew the result of that one. Then we had Elimination Chamber men. Great match, great match. You had Kevin Owens and Logan Paul. They're feuding right now. They're going after each other. Blah blah blah. Logan
Apparently a
Paul's
lot of
doing
good
some.
character work
Yeah, Logan
from
Paul's
Paul.
doing some he snuck a Sharpie into the pod and he's doing doodle graffiti on the pod about how Kevin Owens is fat and stupid. It's good stuff. It's good
Yeah,
stuff.
good character work.
Orton, all Randy always being Randy's got to
Randy
like
Gunner. St.
stand
Louis's own.
stand on top of multiple people's pods and do his thing.
It's
So
a good backstretch,
So
by the
so
way.
all the guys get to like get one good solid look because you can't not look up when somebody's standing above
I
you.
saw something where Kevin's like pointing to Bobby and he's like, Bobby, oh, that's where he is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but great finish to that one. You're really building the Drew McIntyre bad guy role, and then for me, I love an RKO out of nowhere. We got a great RKO, like credit to the production like the production team. Everybody had that blocked out really well. We got a great RKO out of nowhere, and then we got a great KO out of nowhere, I guess. So yeah, we're building to something, but Drew McIntyre walks out elimination chamber again. Like it's kind of a weird night where it's like, yeah, that's a great pay-per-view, but literally everything that we all knew was going to happen happened.
Fair.
It's one of those nights where it was like
Mhm.
all the matches, like Rhea Ripley ended the night defending her women's championship against Nia Jax. It was actually a great match. Like Nia's got a it's a completely different Nia Jax from the previous Nia Jax run,
Well,
is all I can say.
it's kind of like when you watch an anime or something and you see the tropes. It's like, okay, this kid doesn't know how to do anything. Clearly, he's gonna be the best character in the thing by the end of this. Let's see how it goes there. It could still be a good story despite you knowing where it's going to end up. And
Hmm.
wrestling's no different in that regard. Yeah, you can know everybody going in, but can you make it entertaining? Because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a story that it's like a show that people are writing week after week,
Yeah.
oh, and then this character wins their match and so. It's just one giant tournament arc is what wrestling is.
Yeah, and granted, there could have been a few things that I don't think anybody would have been necessarily shocked if Bianca Belair won the Elimination Chamber.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody would have been shocked necessarily if Randy Orton won the Elimination
Randy
Chamber.
Orton.
But we all just kind of and they built the match kind of to where it was like Randy should have won the match, but got screwed. So he had that going for him. But yeah, it was as expected, but was still very enjoyable. You had like I said, you had Rhea Ripley defending in the main event, hometown deal. Well, not hometown, but home country performing for the first time as a WWE superstar in front of
Mhm.
Australia and being the women's champion and being the main event. Um, all pretty cool, awesome things. Oddly enough, though, they didn't talk about it much on Raw, but Nia Jax is also an Australian citizen. She's apparently like an army brat or something to that extent, born on a military base in
That's
Australia,
really
has an
neat.
Australian citizenship by birthright. Um, so yeah, it was actually an Australian versus an Australian for the main event in Perth, but they put on a great match. They've been building Nia really well as the unstoppable force monster kind of thing. She's just been coming out to the ring and just clearing everybody and dropping dropping her dropping her drop on a bunch of people.
Well, yeah, she's not like most girls.
She beat Becky
That's just
Lynch,
that's true.
who
And
won
her
the
team.
Elimination Chamber. She beat her clean, and it was shocked. I was shocked when they did that on free television. They beat.
Hey, when you're part of the bloodline, even if you're not part of the bloodline, you win matches.
I acknowledge you, Tribal Chief. That's gonna be our show for the week. You can, if you like us talking about what we just talked about, you might like us talking about other things that we talk about over on This Guy Hasn't Seen on this same channel, where we talk about movies, television shows, animes, wrestling events, maybe live concerts, documentaries, uh, performance art videos, musical montages. Um,
Yeah, we do a lot. It's a very varied show.
where else can they
But
find
yeah,
you?
you can also find me elsewhere on YouTube, sometimes on the Whatever We Want podcast. I do it with a good friend of mine, a good friend of the show, Super Jazz.
Super
That's
Jazz.
right. We talk about just that. I also have a Twitter and Twitch at Giotavi. That is Giotavi. Come on in, stop on by. Streaming a bit more in 2024. But yeah, well, I gotta say,
Awesome. Have a great week.